Hey folks, Robbie Payne here with Chrome Unboxed, coming at you today with a review of the Asus C201. Now, I will say, if some of you have watched the unboxing and hands-on video of this, I think I slipped maybe twice in that video for some reason and said Acer C720. Maybe because I reviewed so many of those things. We've had one in our house for who knows how long now. For some reason, I just couldn't get that out of my mind. So if I do slip up and say that and I miss it, I'm so sorry. I really am referring to the Asus C201. Cool, background just changed. That's my daughter and my son. Um, Real quick around the hardware, give you a tour. Pretty small, light, thin. I'm going to go through some of the things that we talked about in the unboxing. Kensington lock, micro SD card slot. I will show you something real quick. Let me drop this. Had a question whether or not, oh, I moved it, sorry, whether or not the SD card would fit flush. It does. It snaps, actually clicks right in there and fits completely flush. So if you have a micro SD card, it will fit. No issues there. Micro HDMI, you can get a micro HDMI to full-size female HDMI adapter so that you can use that. It fits in there nice and snug. I've used some of these in the past that have been kind of wobbly. It is very good. Combo headphone microphone jack, nothing across the front, and two USB 2.0 ports there. And depending on your use case, that may be a bummer for you. Hopefully it's not a in-game kind of thing that you can't actually use the device because of that. Everything still works, all your peripherals, so it'd still work there. Just not going to get the ultra fast transfer speeds, and you're not going to get the faster charging. Nothing across the back save this hinge, and it's a good looking device. You can see very clearly on the video here, picks up fingerprints like a beast. Just part of it. It's kind of cheapish plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. It's a decent build. It really is. I've enjoyed my time using this machine. Across the bottom, you're going to see the two speaker ports there, and that's about it. It kind of rounds out the outside of the device here. And so we're going to open this guy back up. And one thing you're going to notice real quick the first time you lay eyes on this thing is that when you're on angle with this display, let me sign in real quick. And I'm going to actually change the background to something with some color to it so we can see. Let's do one of these backgrounds here that's nice and colorful. That one's pretty. And so you can see, let's get it right on angle here for you. Colors pop, the images look sharp. It's not anti-glare display, so it's actually glossy. You can kind of see some reflections there, which doesn't bother me. Some people really like anti-glare screens. This is not one of them, but it gives it this really crisp, really sharp look as long as you're on angle. And let me see if I can find you a spot. Okay, so take a look right up in here, okay? You see the proper kind of contrast. As soon as we bend it back here, you're getting that kind of negative effect going on. Obviously, that happens as we tilt it back. You see all the dark images kind of negative themselves out. Same when we go forward, they go the opposite direction. We get really light, blown out images. The viewing angle on this thing is so narrow that it almost is impossible to get the screen tilted in such a way where you don't get any polarization from top to bottom, which is kind of a bummer. It's not a huge deal, but don't expect to go sharing your screen with a bunch of people at a party or something like that and it be a good experience, because it's really difficult. You can already see it polarizing. We're kind of on there, but it's still not consistent across. And so that was a little bummer. But again, let's consider some things. We're talking about paying $160 for a laptop here. Granted, mine's $189, I think this one is, with 4 gigs of RAM. And honestly, with the Rockchip processor, for those of you again who haven't watched the unboxing, sorry about that. It comes rocking the Rockchip processor that the Asus Chromebook Flip also has. The Hisense Chromebook at Walmart and the Haier one that is exclusively at Amazon. They're all in that 150, 160 range for 2 gigs, 16 gigs of internal storage, 2 gigs of RAM setup, and it's that Rockchip 3820. Excuse me there. So keeping the idea that we're in that price range, this is really a steal of a device. The keyboard has great travel. It's very, very good, very clicky, very well spaced. barely any give whatsoever there. So it feels really firm. None of this is metal. It's all plastic. But I do appreciate the matte edges around the sides that don't pick up fingerprints, which is very cool. The device didn't have any problem pairing, connecting with things, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, any of those types of things. And actually loads things up relatively quickly. I mean, we're going to go, I use this all the time, but I'm going to go to The Verge. And I don't have any ad block things going on here. I'm using just loading it up as it is. And so you're talking like tons of ads, tons of pictures, tons of stuff going on. And we'll let it get loaded in completely here before I move on. It does take a minute to load in the entire site. So it's loading again. Okay, pretty close. And you can see once we get things loaded in, scrolling is actually pretty decent. Again, we're talking about a bargain basement, laptop here. This is as cheap as it gets. I mean, this is just about disposable at $150, $160, and so very impressed with its performance given that. I'm not going to run another Octane here. It's scoring close to 7,000, which on paper puts it right around the other ARM Chromebooks like Samsung's had. Even the Series 3 gets almost that much. But let me tell you, performance, it's really a non-issue. It's not even close to the old ARM Chromebooks, and maybe that's the quad core thing happening. It is a 30, or I'm sorry, it's not quad core. Yes, it is quad core, but it's 32-bit instead of 64-bit. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I'll show you. I've got. I do have Ubuntu 14.04 with XFCE running on here, and I have ZWE extension or target, and so it's running in a window, and it's had no issues doing so. So Inkscape, which is a decently heavy graphics editing program, no problem there. I can't upgrade to the latest version of Inkscape because they've not compiled that for an ARM chip just yet. So, but the older version runs just fine on it. You can see there's a little bit of lag, but I'll be honest with you, even on my i3 Chromebox, there's a little bit of lag with Inkscape when it loads up. So let me see if I have any. See if I have any images stored here. Oh yeah, it's a nice huge image right there. So it's a 10 meg image. We'll see how it handles that. Granted, this is pushing the limits of what you would really want to be doing on this. For me, this is a on the couch kind of machine, and do some work on it if I'm in a pinch. But you see, it actually pulled it up once it got it loaded in, moves it around just fine. So I mean, there's a lot to be said about how well this thing performs, given what you're talking. Again, we're talking about an ARM processor. We're talking about $160 price range. So I've been very, very impressed with this device. You can see the battery right now is at 20%, showing an hour and 33 minutes left. I think they list this thing at 12 to 13 hours of battery. I wasn't getting quite that, but I was easily getting 9 to 10 hours of use. And because the display is not great, you can see even right now I've got it just about cranked full. Trying to make sure it didn't blow anything out there. Not the brightest display in the world, but again, you got to cut corners in places whenever you're talking about selling a Chromebook for $160. And so I think they did so with the display, probably. The speakers, we talked about this in the unboxing. Speakers are decently loud. They got some volume to them. They're on the underside of the laptop, so if it's in your lap, it gets muffled. It's just kind of the way it is. But overall, I've been happy. Like I took this thing home on a Friday. Didn't take the charger with me, just took it home, used it around the house, did a little bit of work with it, and it is Tuesday now, and we're at 20%. So it's done pretty good as far as battery goes. You're not going to be upset there, I don't believe at all. In here, it's tinny, but it's pretty loud. I mean, I have to raise my voice pretty high to get over it. So No bottom end, which is not surprising. It's a Chromebook, or it's a laptop, any laptop. Even the original Pixel was decent, but it still wasn't great. And again, I look at, we're not getting a bunch of checkerboarding. Those images don't load in on anything. It's just the way web browsers work. And so, again, I've been really, really, really pleasantly surprised. Trackpad is really good, nice and smooth, doesn't pick up a lot of junk, fingerprints, it moves along just fine. I even took a day, almost an entire day, and worked from this device by itself. I hooked it into a secondary display, so it was pushing a 1080p monitor, its own monitor as the secondary, and I did everything I normally do with work. So, I mean, you're talking 10, 12 tabs open, music player, Inkscape running in Ubuntu through Crouton, multiple tabs open, Google Hangouts open. Just lots of stuff going on. It's just the nature of the beast when I work. But I wanted to do that and force myself to see what it would do, and it hung with it. There were a couple of times my tabs crashed on me, but I think that was more due to RAM than anything else. And honestly, as long as I'm just kind of managing that and not leaving a bunch of crap open, I really had no problems with it. And that's saying a lot for a $160 laptop, to say that it can hang with me working. That's really impressive. So overall, I have to say, if you're on the fence or you're thinking about buying one of these $150 Rockchip Chromebooks, this is the one, especially if you're wanting to stay in that price range. This is the one to get. I haven't even touched the Hisense or the higher one, but I don't know that I have to. I've looked at some reviews online about them, and most of the reviews say, hey, it feels pretty cheap, but it's $150. Well, this one doesn't really feel that cheap. This one actually feels better than most of Acer's devices, any of them, including the C910, the Chromebook 11, all of them. I really have to hand it to Asus. They've done a really good job with taking the minimal build elements that they can work with and making something really nice. Really a pleasure to use. I've really enjoyed it. Again, apart from the narrow viewing angles of the screen, I don't have much to nag on this device. We'll either be selling it or handing this off to someone else. It could stay in the house. I'm not sure, but I won't be using it probably as much anymore, because this guy's come along, the Asus Chromebook Flip, just so you guys can see the size of these guys together. So there's that, and then from the front. So most of you know the Flip is pretty darn thin, and the C201 doesn't give up too much in that way. So we'll be talking more about the Flip later, so I'm not going to let it kind of steal the show here. Just wanted to show you how thin and light and really well built this guy is. If you're wanting to stay in that $150 category of Chromebook, this is well worth the extra $10-15 over the other brands, and it is well made. Definitely give this guy a thumbs up. Hope if you do buy it, you enjoy it as much as I have. Other than that, guys, hope you've enjoyed the review. If you haven't checked out the unboxing, there's some other things I did in that as well. Check that one out. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more stuff. We've got the Chromebook Flip unboxing coming, the review coming, all that kind of stuff. So keep it locked here. Until next time, we'll see you later.